My name's Adam, this is my 97 FD with just 20,000 miles on the odometer. It already needs a rebuild, and this is episode 3 of me faking it till I make it. Well, welcome back to episode 3 of my 13B rebuild on my 20,000 mile 97 FD. Now, this guy here presumably blew some coolant seals. We're having some coolant issues. I talk about it in the first video, so if you're interested in why I'm rebuilding my 20,000 mile engine, you should check that out. I'm just little by little getting as much done as I can, episode by episode, so any given day that I just have a couple hours to spend, I'll be out there wrenching and I'll just record what I'm doing. Every single nut and bolt is making it on camera. That's the goal. I want to be able to make, high quality, very thorough content, but also have a really awesome reference for when I'm putting things back together and inevitably run into the thing that I'm like, where does this go? Where did this come from? I could just reference all of my footage. Now, there's a Bermuda Triangle that I keep dropping these bolts in, so you'll see me take out a telescopic magnet there to get things out. It gets really, really tight up under there. It's a really small engine, but pushed all the way back toward the firewall. It sits really far back in the engine bay, and here's that little spot that I just could not get my hand in that I kept dropping nuts and bolts in. So anyway, you'll see a lot of that. There you go. Now, with this build, my goal is to keep things as reliable as possible. That's kind of the end game. I want to rebuild this thing respecting a lot of the OEM components, but also improving it so that it's more reliable. My goal here is not to make a high horsepower rotary, one that's going to have like all the braps and all the horsepower and this giant single turbo. My goal is reliability, because this is too fun of a car to not be able to drive on a daily basis if I want to. So if I go really big peripheral port, or if I do like a giant bridge port, or a huge single turbo, and I'm just like throwing all the power at it, it's going to be obviously an awesome car. I'm sure it will be a lot of fun to drive, but it's not going to be like it is now for me, or at least it was before I started this rebuild. I would take this thing to the post office. I would do like a 20-minute drive to the post office. I'd take it to Target. I'd, just go to Dunkin' every single day. Like, there would be times where I would just hop in and be able to cruise and not have to worry about, being miserable in traffic or whatever. So the goal is to be able to hop in whenever I want and not have to worry about the reliability or it's being uncomfortable to drive. Because I feel like once you get into those super high horsepower applications, it just becomes like a little bit more hassle to drive. You have to put a little more effort into it. And I want it to be a nice, enjoyable experience, because the Rotary, after all, and the FD in particular, it's just a perfect 50-50 power to weight ratio. And I just think that it deserves a little bit more respect than just power. Anyway, so once I got some of those things taken care of, I start taking apart some of the engine harness. Now, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I'm following an extremely detailed breakdown of removing a 13B and rebuilding it and putting it back in from a forum post that's a little over 10 years old. And obviously the age doesn't matter. This has been around for 30 years now at this point. But I am following this forum post, and this guy who did the forum post, who did this documentation, kind of oscillated back and forth on whether or not he wanted to completely remove the engine harness from the chassis or just remove it from the engine and disconnect all the stuff. I really do not want to remove the entire engine harness. I would rather leave it in the car, not fish it through the firewall. I've kind of got a whole complicated air suspension set up, and like all of my gauge wiring goes through that same firewall. So I think it'd be a little bit of a hassle to kind of like fish things through itself. It's a little bit, I don't want to say tangled mess, but there's a lot going on that isn't just the engine harness. So my goal is to leave it in. So that's kind of where I left off with this episode. I got some of the engine harness disconnected, the power steering, AC condenser is already out. I got the air pump out, the brackets, the tensioner pulley. And then you can kind of see this is what the engine looks like by the time I'm done with episode 3 and all of that work that I did. You can see a lot left. There's still so much to do. I think in the next episode, I'll talk more about some of the engine upgrades that I want to make. So if you're interested, I hope that you stick around. All of the higher quality 4K footage is on YouTube. So hopefully you subscribe, follow along, and I'll see you in the next one.